I have to do that to sync up the tracks.
Right.
I'm not trying to be Hollywood.
Does it
here.
work?
It works.
Oh, okay.
It works.
Cool. Very cool.
And look at this. It is Thanksgiving week. Back in the car for Car Con Carne. Sitting to my right, he's everybody's pal. He is Sal Abbinanti. He is a comic book creator, a graphic novelist, if you will.
Wow, that sounds impressive.
Well, you are impressive, Sal
Well,
Abbinanti.
thank you.
A returning guest on the show. And to mark the return to the car, and I'm going to try to do this weekly from now on, I figured this was a great spot to do it. Johnnie's Beef. It's a favorite of Car Con Carne. It's a favorite of the Northwest side.
Yeah.
This is Italian beef and sausage. And the prices at Johnnie's, I don't know if you paid attention, they seem like they're stuck in 1975. Like they haven't raised the prices here since then.
Well, they got it down to they're like the little knob on the toaster. They got it down to where it's bread, it's beef, and they just cut right to the chase.
Yeah, they literally offer beef, sausage.
That's it.
Fries, a pepper and egg sandwich, I think, on Fridays.
Yes.
And Italian ice.
Right.
That's it.
Yep.
That's all you're getting.
You can't go in and ask for, hey, gluten-free or, any kind of anything out of the ordinary. If it's not up on the board, you're not getting it.
And this place, I'm sure they've long since paid this place off. It's just they're printing money here.
Yeah, at this point. Yeah.
So we're going to bust out some food just for some context. Atomica God is Red Omnibus is currently crowdfunding on Kickstarter. I realized before coming here tonight, Sal Abbinanti, comic creator, graphic novelist, there's really no need for you to even do this interview. You've already hit your goal.
No, there is. No. Hitting the goal is important because you want to print the book. But the cool thing about Atomica was there was so much stuff that we created, that we did outside of the book with all these other creators that I got to do covers and images that never got seen. Mm-hmm. That I thought, hey, once this thing goes away and dies, they're just going to kind of be gone forever. So it's important to have all those tiers and stretch goals and give away all this free stuff. So that's the goal at this point.
And I am being facetious, but the work you've got Kickstarter absolutely figured out. I could learn from you. We should create schedule a separate meeting, a time where you can school me on how to properly navigate.
It's tough. It's a lot of work. That's all I can tell you. Is you got to really get out there, and order fulfillment is crucial.
Mm-hmm. All right. So as we're talking, we're at Johnnie's Beef. We both got Italian sausage. I thought about doing the combo. Thought about doing Italian beef. I've learned my lesson with Italian beef in the car. It's too much detritus as you're going.
It's heavy. Yeah, it's heavy lifting. It's a lot of It's you're like you're working in a mash unit when you're eating an Italian beef. And.
Fries?
Yes, but it is like jazz. It's
jazz.
It's messy, but it gets you there.
Like jazz.
Yeah.
All right, so we both got sausage. You got it with the giardiniera.
Hot giardiniera is the cake. Hot giardiniera cures cancer.
I think it does.
James.
I think this is yours. I got the sweet peppers. As the host of Car Con Carne, I've been burned by the oil and giardiniera before.
Like physically burned, or
down my shirt. I have shirts that are forever stained because I decided to eat a beef sandwich in my car.
Hot giardiniera, the problem is it's as hot going out as it is going in.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
All right, so I got the Italian sausage. I didn't ask for this dip. Do they only dip the beef? Do you not dip the sausage?
You can ask either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got the Italian sausage.
Yes.
With sweet. Actually, you're pretty sweet.
Thank you. But that's, only because we know each other.
It smelled. Usually there's a line around the place, but we're here later on a Sunday
You come
night.
during the day, and it gets really ugly here.
But the smell as you're in line.
Yeah, I've been here and there's fist fights in the parking lot.
Really?
Yeah, because the line goes down the street, and then you got a lot of guys that got to get back to work because it's a blue-collar kind of neighborhood, and the neighbors that live around here are not too crazy about the double parking and all the, But yeah, no, it could turn into like a pirate's den out here real fast.
I gotta say, I didn't get the hot giardiniera. There is a little bit of heat in the sausage to start with, which is nice.
There is, yeah.
Nice flavor.
Yep.
All right, so Sal Abbinanti, we're talking about this omnibus, Atomica God is Red. We have history talking about Atomica, but I think for the purposes, because this isn't a straight comic book podcast, and comic books are just part of the overall milieu of Car Con Carne, what is the elevator pitch for Atomica?
He's the god of the, growing up in the 70s, Russia was always the evil empire when you lived in the States. So I always thought it would be a cool setting for a book because I was a huge Kirby guy.
Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby. And New Gods was the book that made me want to be a comic artist. So when I wanted to do a comic, when I was forced to do a comic because they wouldn't let me, come to their party, they wouldn't hire me because my style was too disturbing, is what they told me. In a very affectionate way, they said your art is too disturbing.
Wait, who said that? Marvel Comics?
Editors, yeah. I stood in all those lines, James. I went to every con and I went to every portfolio line and what you were told to do to get in, and they weren't having it. They wanted my stuff was just too, So I said, well, I'll do my own. What do I got to lose? I was bartending at the time. I was working in Bucktown at the Map Room and at the Silver Cloud, cutting limes all day. So I said, well, I got nothing to lose. So. But also, Atomica was kind of a metaphor for the God of the 20th century, where technology has become our God, our phones and our computers and everything. So I thought, you know what? The Soviet Union did that, where they told their people the state is your God. There is no religion. Religion was outlawed. So growing up a big Thor guy, I said, there you go. I was off and running. I took Thor, Greek mythology, and I looked into Russian mythology and thought, hey, what the hell? But it wasn't a political book. It wasn't a religious book. It was more a book of saying, F the system, I'm just going to do my own book. I think that's really the message was just create your own damn book.
It was just the backdrop for you to create something cool.
Just do something. Exactly. Exactly what it was.
Well, the question I have, because we talked about your most recent graphic novel, the gorgeous Rio de Janeiro-based graphic novel, The Hostage. How important is that verisimilitude? Is that the right word? The truthfulness.
I went to public school, so verisimilitude. You just threw me.
But with your last one, I mean, you went to Rio and
yeah.
you experienced that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you've never been to Russia.
Never, no.
So how authentic do you need to be to tell a story like this?
Well, you could do a lot of research. I did a lot. I was really into kind of the Russian avant-garde posters, movie posters of the turn of the century.
Who doesn't love those?
They were fantastic because it was kind of inspiring of my work. And I studied German expressionist film when I was in college and that, and I kind of it had an effect on my style. It influenced me a lot, and my work was just not the house style. It was not a mainstream style. So I just went with it and kind of did it, had, New Gods. If New Gods had a baby, with Thor, it was Atomica, which is kind of where the inspiration came from.
I love it. And New Gods, Jack Kirby creation, DC
Right.
Comics, 1970s. This was Jack Kirby moving over to DC after basically laying all the groundwork for the modern age of comics over at Marvel. And he just blew people's minds with this title. I think that's the high watermark for the 70s at least.
Fourth World, yeah.
I love that stuff. And talking about the Kirby Thor stuff, I think we're of similar age. We're both like 25. But do you remember?
I'll be 25.
Do you remember when the Marvel Treasury editions, the big oversized tabloid comics were?
Absolutely.
I remember going to the convenience store and I got that Thor one, that first Thor one, and it had like Thor versus Hercules, like that. I think that Treasury edition is what hooked me into all the Kirby Thor stuff.
Yeah. Well, there was that. And then also after Fourth World stuff, Kirby went in and he did the horror stuff. He started to do the demon, and he went. That stuff affected me as well because it had an indie feel. He wasn't doing the primary colors of Marvel characters. He wasn't doing the Avengers anymore and Captain America and characters you knew. So when he did Commandy and he did, the demon, it really felt independent to me. So when I decided, hey, I was either going to become a fireman, because that was the track. I was on the track to be a fireman. I was going to go and join the fire department or be an artist or give it up being an artist. I thought, well, I can't do this. I can't sit in front of the firehouse with a Dalmatian all day.
Although that sounds lovely.
Well, it does, but I wanted to be an artist, so I thought, well, look, if they're not going to hire me, then let me just try to put this damn thing out and see what happens. And, you have no delusions that you're going to set the world on fire, but at least you feel like you're a working artist.
And as a creator, you have to create. It's hard to explain to people who don't have that inclination.
It's like running off and joining the circus. The circus doesn't need you, man. You know, you need the circus. You know, I mean, David Mamet said that writers write because, like they say, a beaver, he chews wood because his teeth itch. He doesn't really have a choice. He has to, like cut down, trees. That's how it is when you're an artist. Your teeth itch.
You're like a beaver.
You're like a beaver.
Sal Abbinanti is like a beaver.
That's right.
And there's the headline for this week's episode.
That's it.
That's it.
All right.
By the way,
the guinea beaver.
As you've been explaining the birth of Atomica, I've just been quietly dropping peppers down my sweatshirt.
That's hey, I mean,
and for full, on full display for all to enjoy, to screen capture.
I got a
share
lap full of Jardiniere as well, but hey,
Mm-hmm.
It's baptism by fire.
What's funny, you mentioned something before we sat down in the car. I'd forgotten. We first talked about Atomica, God is Red. Like, this is the Omnibus. Now, the Omnibus, there's a long history in comics of compiling full runs of titles into an Omnibus collection. A big, oversized, oh my God, you can't read it in bed because if it falls, it'll smash your nose.
That's right. That's right.
But back when Atomica was a new concept, or you were putting out the trades, we talked about it when I was on Q101.
That's right. You had me down at the studio. It was awesome. Yeah.
So that was like 2006?
Yeah, I want to say 6, 7. It was right in there. Yeah, it was my Larry King moment.
Right.
I was in the studio.
Was I Larry King?
Yeah, you were more like a Charlie Rose type, of interview. But yeah, I was kind of. It was cool. You had me down to the studio. It was really,
I have a history. I'm not in radio anymore, but I have a history of sneaking comic book creators on the air, dating back, and I think you probably helped me with this. Dating back to the 90s. I did the local music show, Local 101, on Q101, and it was for local artists, and so I used that broad local artist show description as an excuse to have Alex Ross come on the air.
Right.
Did you help with that? You must have.
He's familiar with you too, but I might have just put you two together. But yeah, but he knew your work and he knew who you were.
I've always enjoyed being able to kind of like do that kind of under the radar stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not
going
to.
He did it in the car, dude, didn't he?
Or he did.
He did both.
On Easter Sunday.
Yeah.
It was before the museum exhibit. We talked about all these different restaurants, and they were all closed on Easter, so we went to a Starbucks.
Okay.
Because
that'll work.
That's the only thing open on big holidays.
That's right. I forgot you guys did that on Easter. Yeah.
So we talked about Atomica 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. And now here we are sitting in my car eating beef sandwiches, which actually, that's a happy ending as far as I'm concerned.
It really is. I mean, when you add Jardiniere, what more can you ask for?
And Sal, you've always struck me as authentic Chicago, all the way down to the fact that you say Jardiniere.
Yeah.
Because my journalistic instincts kick in, and I always want to say Jardiniere. But here in Chicago, it's Jardiniere.
It's not French. The way you say it sounds real expensive. You could like add a few dollars to the price the way you pronounce it. But when you say Jardiniere, it's literally made by my grandma used to make it in the basement with an old mason jar.
How's yours? You've got the spicy stuff. This
really
is
good.
delicious.
Really good. Oh, Johnny's is not here by accident.
No.
There's a lot of beef joints. I mean, now anybody with with an electrical socket now opens up a restaurant, but Johnny's has been here for a long time for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
They get it done.
All right, so tell me about the Omnibus. What is in this? What is currently crowdfunding? Actually, let me backtrack. What's the deadline for Kickstarter?
We got another week. We're going another week. We wanted to. It's kind of a funky time of year because of Black Friday, and this next coming week is Thanksgiving. But I wanted to go. I really wanted to get it out before the end of the year because I wanted to deliver it, by the late spring, early summer. And with the COVID, delays with printing and materials, I just thought, I really want to get this thing delivered and not go into the summer with it. So when I did it originally, I liked it old school. I did individual issues. I like to do 12 individual issues. But I never really had a chance to put it all together where people had a chance to read it all in one, because people love trades. And absolute editions in those days cost a fortune. So to put it out as an absolute edition would have cost me like a car. So I thought, what, I don't know if enough people want it to where I was going to jump into an absolute edition. So when I did the hostage, I thought, wow, this is a great way for indie creators to kind of pivot and be able to meet the market directly, where you can look at it. You know, Kickstarter's cool because it's like a Foghat concert at the Aragon. If you suck, they'll start throwing shit at you. You know, and that's how it is with Kickstarter, where you get your comments. They'll let you know if it's too expensive or it sucks or it's this, and you can use that feedback to apply. So I thought, let me see if anybody, you know, there's enough interest to care. And it was really cool because an Eastern European publisher put it out, you know, in Croatia, in that part of Europe, and it did really well. Darkwood was this company that did it, and I thought, wow, somebody actually did an omnibus of Atomica. So I thought, well, I got the files. Let's put it back in, you know, to English, and we did well with the hostage on Kickstarter. So I at least felt that I could give it a shot. And when it was funded, I was just elated that people actually care about independent comics, because believe me, James, the indie comic world needs creators more than ever before.
Oh no, I absolutely.
They need it, you know.
And I realize we're here to talk about Atomica, but I got my copy of the hostage probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. It is just gorgeous in the slipcase.
Thank you.
Just beautiful.
Thank you.
And to your point, I mean, this is what a great thing crowdfunding has been for creators like yourself.
I mean, if there's an upside of COVID, is it forced all of us in business to pivot and to try to find new ways to kind of, you know, and that's what it did with publishers. You had to pivot. You had to find a way to get your product out there and let people see it, because look, I grew up a big Marvel guy, and Marvel and DC are great. They put out great books and they got tremendous creators, but they're not going to promote new young talent or guys trying to get into business or independent stuff. So as an indie creator, you better get out there and kick the bushes. You know, if you're a band, you're an artist, you're a writer, you gotta get out there and do it, man. You know.
You mentioned Alex Ross, who you work with. You also work with Bill Sienkiewicz. I mean, you work with some pretty badass creators. Could crowdfunding work for them? Is this the wave of the future for everybody? Could you see Alex Ross doing something?
I think if you want to put it out yourself, see, Kickstarter, I think in its inception started as a way to raise money. Mm-hmm. But it's more than that now. I really think it's much more. You look at companies like Boom, and you see like Dark Horse, or you see Top Cow. You see big publishers doing Kickstarter now. It's clearly not about the money. It's another way to market and to get your product under people's noses. Because you see Boom, they're doing a book with Keanu Reeves. I mean, Keanu Reeves clearly doesn't need Kickstarter, but if they can, you create a video, you can show a sample of the book, you can give your fan base and your supporters tiers of free stuff. I mean, that's ideal if you're an indie creator, is to be able to reach your fan base and your supporters one-to-one, and also get feedback of like, hey man, I like this, but I don't like that. It's too expensive, or why don't you offer it? I offer it. You can get it as a digital PDF,
sure, of course,
as well, which gets you the international market. So I just think it's a more efficient, really effective way to kind of get your stuff right to the consumer without going through a publisher. Because when I did Atomica originally, you went through Diamond. You put an ad in Diamond, in the magazine, in the preview catalog, and you sat back and you waited for your orders. And you were like helpless. You were literally sitting there waiting. Now you can get out there. You can bang the drum. You can do social media. You can put out a newsletter. You can talk to them directly with a video. That is way more effective than the old way, which is, putting an ad up at the,
Well, and you said it, that ability to touch the consumer, to make them feel like they have a stake in things. How wonderful is that?
It's indie comic fans. That's who they are. Mm-hmm. They'll back you. But I used to have that experience when you did a con. You went to Artist Alley, and you could sit in Artist Alley and talk to them one-on-one and do a sketch for them and let them look at it and flip through it, and they'll let you know if they like it or it's not for them. That's kind of like what Kickstarter is. They can kick the tires more on the product than they can. And James, don't kid yourself. A lot of comic stores just have no interest in indie titles.
Right.
They figure, hey, if this doesn't sell, I got to eat it. But at least with Kickstarter and some of these funding, sites, you have the ability to at least show it to the guy, show it to the consumer and go, hey, here it is. You like it, you don't like it, I can live with it. But the ad, a one-page ad, now you're relying on comic stores, and some comic stores refuse to buy indie titles. and I understand that. But at least with this, you feel like I got more of a shake.
For sure, and a lot of those stores are just trying to figure out how to keep the lights on for another 6 months.
Absolutely, because if they don't sell it, they got to eat it. If the book doesn't sell, then they're stuck with it. So I absolutely understand that.
You mentioned earlier you couldn't get arrested. The big comic book editors, they didn't like your stuff. What's interesting about your style, for people who have not seen Sal Abbinanti's work, who've not seen The Hostage, who've not seen Atomica before, your style is wholly unique. Wholly, W-H-O-L-L-Y. You have a very singular voice, and you would think in any vertical, any form of art or expression, someone who has a unique vision or voice would be in a good position. But I think, to your point, it comes back to the Talking Heads song, "Found a Job," of more songs about buildings and food. Couple hates what they see on TV. All the TV sucks. They have their own ideas. They're going to make their own TV show. You found a job.
Well, they want, editors, publishers claim to want what's new, but yet when you show them something new or different or not like what they're used to, it scares them. And they're like, no. Their first impulse is they back off. It's like, I don't want to fight Apollo Creed, So it's one of those things where they always claim to want what's different, what's new, and it's like, look, this is the only way I could do it. I can't draw like Jim Lee. That's Jim Lee is Jim Lee. I can't draw the house style. I understand they want stuff that's more palatable to the consumer and to their to their base, stuff that's very, very kind of like a certain way, and I get that. But it also doesn't mean there's not room for the type of stuff that I do. There's not room for things that all don't look the same, and that's why I say we need more and more indie creators, because the comic product is thinning out. It's getting narrower and narrower of the type of book that you're getting from these companies, and the type of illustration that you're seeing, and so that's why I think, look, you really have to just step up and do it yourself.
Totally agree.
And start your own band in a garage.
Absolutely. Was Sienkiewicz a role model for kind of following your own muse?
Absolutely. Bill, well, what I learned most from Bill was there's no one way to do it. Bill, if he drew the Joker 10 times, it looked different 10 different times. And what I learned from Bill was, it's like with Kirby, is it should be a product of your imagination.
Yes.
It shouldn't just look like, hey, it looked like that before, so now he should look like this now. I think it's art. I think it should always evolve and kind of change and expand and move in a different direction. And they're not always going to like it. In fact, some of your work is just they're going to throw it back at you. But that's okay, because if you're an artist, you're like a vampire. You don't really have a choice. Your teeth itch.
And to be clear, I don't think I knew how to pronounce Sienkiewicz until I met you. There were a lot of comic book artists and creators' names growing up as a kid. I kind of pronounced in my head, but I knew they were wrong. Sienkiewicz was one of them.
Sienkiewicz is like Cher. You only need to say Sienkiewicz. You don't even need his first name.
No. That's it. Lots of consonants.
That's right. The Polish, that name comes across, and he loves, he loves that. His logo for a while was he laid it out the way, like how you say a word in the dictionary.
So let's talk about a little bit more about the Kickstarter. The Atomica God is Red Omnibus is crowdfunding now. You can search Atomica with a K. It's Russian.
Yep.
Or Sal. It's probably easier to search by Atomica than it is Abbinanti, but either way would work on Kickstarter. We mentioned that you've crushed your goal. You hit it. Now comes the fun part. All these extras.
Freebies, yeah.
All these stretch goals.
Yeah.
And one of the things you mentioned, all the different artists who contributed to Atomica through the years. So specifically, just going through the, this is actually in the omnibus, covers and pinups from Tim Bradstreet, Gene Colan, the Dean, Darwin Cook.
Not with us anymore.
No.
Either one, Gene Colan or Darwin Cook. Yeah, which is what's cool about being able to show these pieces. Otherwise they wouldn't be seen.
John Romita Sr.
Yeah.
And that's
one of my heroes.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah.
Steve Rude. Bill Sienkiewicz.
Yeah.
The aforementioned Alex Ross.
Yeah.
Bill Sienkiewicz. Michael Turner's in it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is great. So, all right. So, talk about the stretch goals. What are people getting?
Well, we wanted to. I found with the Hostage that the extra stuff, the kind of the complementary items that you include with it, people love that stuff. They love to feel like it's unique unto the project. And it's not just about, tchotchke stuff, which is great. You do that. You do you throw in tons of free stuff, stickers and all that. But I felt we had so many great creators that I wanted to give them their due. So we created a lithograph package, a small lithograph package of, for Darwin Cook and Alex Ross and Bill Sienkiewicz and Glenn Fabry did some great covers that are really, really nice. And that we did, I wanted to do an Atomica card set, trading card set where we do all the images in a card set. We also did, bookmarks, postcards, keychains. Most of this stuff is all throw-ins we're given, but it's like it kind of just helps add to the texture of the project, just to say, look, it's not just a singular, it's not just singular to the vision of what I did. I wanted other creators to give me their version of Atomica.
I love that.
And for you to see that. So it had kind of a history. It felt, So I had, Simon Bisley did a great piece for me. Like you said, Tim Bradstreet, Alex, Eric Powell, Ernie Chan, Tony DeZuniga, Alex Nino, the great artists in the Philippines. These are like Marvel 70s guys.
Oh, 100%.
That's cool. I love that stuff. I mean, Alex Nino had a tremendous impact on my work because it reminded me a lot of what Bill did. So I just thought, I have to show all this stuff. Because otherwise, once this project is gone, you have to move on. I've moved on to my next projects, but I really felt if you knew Atomica or you didn't know it, you have to see what these guys have done.
And the stuff you're talking about, as a creator, as someone navigating through Kickstarter and crowdfunding, all these extras, bookmarks, trading cards, as a creator, you have to chase down vendors for all that stuff. It's not like you just have the idea to do it.
It's gotten, in fairness, it's gotten easier. There are more and more of those things that you can do now. Whereas before, if you wanted to do a card set, you'd have to do a minimum order of like 100,000. Now you can do 5,000 sets, 400 sets, whatever you want. It's the same, with any of that stuff. If you want to do bookmarks and things like that, it's cool to do them because you get to see them. Quality paper and that, cool images on it, and you don't have to do 100,000, a run of 100,000. You could do just, and I always like to overprint those things so that you can give extras and throw them in, and and say here, thank you, because
always promote.
You never take the supporters for granted because getting people to buy into a new book or a book they're not familiar with is tough because there's a lot of brand loyalty in comics. Like in any other project.
Oh, for sure.
When people go to a comic store, they know what they want. They want their Batman or their Wolverine or their Avengers, and to get them to go, I never heard of this book, but it's like give it a shot. You really I never take that stuff for granted.
It's funny. We talked about when you came on Q101, talked about Atomica, 2006. You mentioned you're working on another project now. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, it'll still always come back to Atomica, though, won't it? That's your calling card.
For me, it will. Yeah, because it was the book that kind of got me to, get off the schneid, so to speak, and say, hey, if I'm going to do this, I better just get off my ass and do it. And you learn a lot when you put it out yourself. I mean, you learn more from doing it yourself than anything else because what happens is that, you realize, hey, it's not as easy as it looks, one. Two, if you're going to criticize other people's books, you try putting your own book out and you'll see how it works. And three, 99% of it is just sweat. It all comes down to sweat. Whether you're a band or a writer or an actor, you gotta just basically get out there and get your ass kicked. There's no shortcut, for doing it because you're gonna, it's not always. You're gonna get people that are gonna go, what the hell is this or that, and that's okay because they're not all gonna love your stuff.
So we've covered indie comics pretty well. As far as mainstream comics go, you work both sides of the business with the artists you represent. Am I an old man? I've completely hang on, don't answer yet. I've completely fallen off on comics, and it's not something I want to say out loud. I've had a really hard time following everything.
Yeah, it can be daunting because when you go to a comic store, I mean, come on, when we were growing up, you could buy comics anywhere. You can go to the grocery store. You got them at 7-Eleven. I used to go to the Jewel with my mother. Now comics in some ways are like porn. You got to go to a special store to get them. You got to go to a comic store.
I don't know what you mean by that, but okay.
Well, it's become like a select market where there's less places to get them than there used to be. And that's sad because, you used to be able to get comics anywhere. And I feel the same way. But to me, the cool thing I like about comics now is, to me, I'm driven by the art. If I pick up a book, I don't care who put it out. I don't care what it's about. If it's cool looking, I'll buy it. And that's the saddest thing about the success of some of these shows, especially like the way comics have become so, become such a shitstorm now with the movies and all that stuff, is that I wish it would trickle down into people buying comics. I wish if even 1% of the people that went to see the Avengers realized it came from a book, created by Stan and Jack, they would buy a damn book. Or the 200,000 people that go to San Diego, some of them would visit Artist Alley and kind of give some patronage to small press people to help the business moving forward. Then it would be cool. But I still think that the comics medium is the small press indie medium is something that's really unique to the American art scene, and I don't think it gets nearly enough love.
All right. So as a Kirby fan, have you seen Eternals?
I haven't. I usually kind of wait till it calms down and all the critics kind of, pan out.
Yeah, honestly, COVID's kept me out of the theaters. As much as I want to see Eternals, Ghostbusters, and so on, I've been like, I can wait a little bit. I just want to do this where I don't have to watch with a mask on. Right.
Yeah, you lose a lot. I can't jump on a bag of Twizzlers with a mask on. It's tough.
The big challenge for me, as curious as I am about Eternals, Spider-Man's the big test for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, in the trailer, my God, people went crazy when they released the trailer.
They did really, okay, everyone freaked out, like, oh my God.
It went nuts.
I feel like we already knew everything about the trailer before it happened, though. Like, there was nothing surprising about it.
Yeah. I think the whole idea that they're going to introduce all these new past characters or the multiverse or the alternate universe of Spider-Man is a really cool idea.
Agreed.
As the fan base wants to see Tom Holland and Tobey Maguire and all this, and the rumor is they're all going to be in it, but I don't know. And usually when I go to the show, I got kids, so I have to. If it's not about a guy taking a pig shopping, I can't go see it.
I've got good news for you. Those days end.
Yeah.
I love horror. Absolutely love horror movies.
Right.
I went through a period of maybe 8 or 9 years where I really didn't see any horror movies because I had small children, couldn't take them to see a movie. And when I was at home, I was watching movies about pigs going shopping and Wiggles and all that stuff. And so
that's right.
I was completely detached from all that. But that period ends, and now I'm like someone paroled from prison, like dating for the first time. Like I can't get to all this stuff fast enough.
Your son's in college, right? Or high school? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I thought it was high school, but it's college. Wow.
Daughter in high school, son in college. And they both graduated during 2020, which was so much fun for both of them.
That's wild.
It is. All right, so
they're getting, my guy just started high school. So
sorry.
He's having to get up now, so that's the problem. Because he had a year and a half of COVID learning where he just laid in bed and looked at the iPad and, was like, Orson Welles, laying there with a cigar and a cigarette holder and an ascot.
Yeah,
and now he's got to get up and he's got to actually get dressed. Well, they don't really get dressed. They just kind of run out the door like,
Do you buy your kids ascots at Target? Where do you go for those locally?
I only get them the little jacket with the emblem on it, with their name, the Little Lord Fauntleroy collection at Sears.
All right, so Atomica God is Red, the Omnibus collection, crowdfunding now. I can tell you, story-wise, art-wise, super cool, super creative, super interesting. Just from a collectability standpoint, based on what I saw with what you did with the hostage, this is something that you, listener, viewer, will want to have on your bookshelf. It's stunning, or coffee table, whatever is reinforced and can hold it, basically, because it's going to be a heavy.
It's over 300 pages. Yes, it's a piece of work, and there's a whole additional chapter that this European publisher added to it of all referencing all the characters in Russian mythology that are in the book, which was kind of, they took it above and beyond what I had even done. It was,
So
really ambitious.
Are you done telling these stories? Will you come back to this universe?
Well, the God is Red story arc was just meant to be 12 issues.
Mm-hmm.
I had planned an annual, which was called USSA, which showed how the Soviet Union defeated America, the United States in the 50s in the Cold War, kind of a what-if thing. And I don't know, at the time, I didn't think there was any interest or it was going to, anybody would want it, it would sell. But sure, I'd love to come back to it. I don't know if right now, because the project I'm into now, I'm already like 30 pages into like a 150-page graphic novel, called Dago's on the Moon, which is another,
Wait, for real?
Yeah. No, Dago's on the Moon was something that I created about 15 years ago. It's about a squadron of Italian fighters, Air Force, that gets lost and winds up on the moon.
That's going to be a tough one for interviewers to talk about.
You know what? When I created it, it wasn't in the woke movement where you could say Dago's on the Moon, because I was, but if I changed it, I could change the title. But the working title was Dago's on the Moon. Growing up an Italian kid, I thought, hey.
People of Italian descent on the moon.
Brothers on the Moon, I was going to go with maybe Fratello sulla or La Luna would be Brothers on the Moon, which is what they refer to. But growing up as a kid, the Italian army, especially in World War II, was always made fun of when you grow up in Chicago. As a culture, they made fun of them. So I always thought this is kind of a love letter to the Italian. It's not, it's not meant to be. And with my style, come on, I can't draw a little lotta. It's going to look a little, disturbing. But no, it's really cool. They wind up on the moon, and then it turns into kind of a Flash Gordon adventure from there.
So there's the elevator pitch right there.
It's it looks it's very cool. It's turning out really cool. And again, I don't know if I can even do it with that title, but it just, to me, Dago's, as an Italian guy, was never a derogatory term. You never were offended by it. There were terms you got offended by, but Dago's was never one of them.
Maybe as an Italian American, you could say that. As someone who's not, I feel like there's no way I could ever say that out loud. I don't feel like I ever was allowed to do that.
I don't. Yeah, I think if we're friends, no one cares, But I thought, look, it's a working title. If it offends people and it's not going to work, then I could easily, pivot and change it to something else.
I mean, I don't want to be the voice of negativity.
It could be worse. It wasn't Dago's on Uranus. It was Dago's on the Moon. So it was
actually Dago's on Uranus was my first adult feature back when I was fresh out of college.
That's right, Marilyn Chambers. And Nikki Knockers, I think was in that. But
Nikki Knockers.
Don't ask me how I know.
All right, Sal Abbinanti. So, all right, when Dago's on the Moon becomes reality, we got to go out for hot dogs or something.
Next year, I'll take you out for we'll go jump on some pasta.
Ooh. Oh yeah, you got to we got to theme that out.
You got to theme it out, right?
Get some squares and some red sauce going.
Yep. As long as it's got the pig fat. The most important thing about red sauce is it has to have the pig fat in it, or
I don't think I knew that.
That's all it tastes. The way to tell is if it's got those little orange droplets of oil that coagulate on the top, that's pig fat.
And that's legit.
That's where all the taste comes from.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
All right. He is Sal Abbinanti. Atomica God is Red Omnibus. Crowdfunding now. Get your copy. Reserve it. Get all that cool shit we were talking about. The bookmarks, the carts, everything. Get those extras. Contribute. Support independent art. Support an independent creator. And let's keep that movement going forward in a big way. Sal, thank you.
Thank you. Awesome beef, too. Thank you, Johnnies.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Thank you, Johnnies. And thank you for watching. Thank you for listening.